Rain drizzled softly over the glowing city lights as a black luxury sedan rolled slowly down Maple Avenue. The man behind the wheel looked like any other tired traveler. His jacket was worn, his beard slightly untrimmed, and his eyes carried the weight of someone who had seen too much of the world. But what nobody in the quiet town knew was that the man sitting inside that car was Adrian Caldwell, a billionaire investor worth over $3 billion. Tonight though, he wasn't Adrian Caldwell the billionaire. Tonight he was just Adrian, a stranger trying to see the world without the influence of money. He parked across from a small roadside restaurant called Riverside Grill, a place that looked like it had survived decades of storms and stories. Adrian stepped out into the cold night air. He had spent the past 3 months traveling across the country undercover, visiting small towns and local businesses, trying to understand what life really looked like for ordinary people. No assistants. No security. No private jets. Just truth. But tonight, something unexpected was waiting for him. And it would shake him more than any business deal ever had. The bell above the restaurant door chimed softly as Adrian stepped inside. Warm light wrapped around the room. The smell of grilled steak, butter, and coffee filled the air. A few truck drivers sat in a booth laughing loudly. An elderly couple shared a slice of pie near the window. And behind the counter stood a young waitress. She moved quickly between tables, balancing plates with quiet determination. Her name tag read Lena. She looked to be in her early 20s, her curly hair tied neatly behind her head. Despite the long shift written in her tired eyes, she carried herself with calm dignity. When she approached Adrian's table, she offered a polite smile. "Evening, sir. What can I get you tonight?" Adrian glanced at the menu. Steak. Medium rare. And black coffee. "Coming right up." She walked away smoothly, but Adrian noticed something. The restaurant owner standing near the kitchen door watched Lena carefully, almost suspiciously. Adrian had seen that look before. It was the kind of look people gave someone they didn't fully trust. And he didn't like it. Minutes later, Lena returned with his steak. She placed the plate gently in front of him. But as she set down the coffee cup, something unusual happened. Her hand lingered for just a second. And quietly, almost invisibly, she slipped a small folded note beside his napkin. Her expression didn't change. She didn't look at him again. She simply said softly, "Enjoy your meal." Then she walked away. Adrian stared at the folded paper. His heart beat a little faster. He picked it up and opened it slowly. The message inside was short. Only 8 words. But the moment he read them, his entire body froze. The note read, "I know who you are. Please don't react." Adrian's breath caught. He slowly lowered the paper. How could she possibly know? He had traveled across 12 cities without anyone recognizing him. His disguise was simple but effective. Yet somehow, this young waitress had seen right through it. Adrian kept eating calmly, pretending nothing had happened. Minutes later, Lena returned with the coffee pot. Without looking at him, she whispered quietly, "Please don't say anything." Cameras. She tilted the pot slightly toward the security camera mounted above the counter. Then she walked away again. Adrian suddenly understood. This wasn't about recognizing a billionaire. Something else was going on. Something serious. 20 minutes later the restaurant began to empty. The truck drivers paid their bill and left. The elderly couple waved goodbye. Soon only Adrian remained. The owner stepped outside to smoke a cigarette. That's when Lena approached the table again. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Mr. Caldwell. I need your help." Adrian leaned forward. "How do you know who I am?" She looked around nervously. "My father used to work for your company." Adrian blinked. What was his name? Marcus Hill. The name hit Adrian like lightning. Marcus Hill. A factory supervisor who had died 3 years ago during a warehouse accident at one of Adrian's logistics companies. Adrian had read the report himself. But something about the investigation had always bothered him. My dad always believed you were different, Lena continued quietly. He said you actually cared about workers. Her eyes trembled slightly. But the accident that killed him, it wasn't an accident. Adrian's expression hardened. What do you mean? The warehouse manager ignored safety warnings. Equipment was broken. Dad reported it 3 times. She swallowed hard. They covered it up. Adrian felt a slow wave of anger rising in his chest. If that's true, why didn't anyone come forward? Lena reached into her apron. She placed a small flash drive on the table. Because anyone who tried, got fired. Adrian stared at the flash drive. What's on this? Internal emails. Safety reports. Video footage. Her voice cracked slightly. My dad saved everything. Adrian slowly picked up the drive. For a moment, the restaurant felt silent and heavy. How did you find me? Lena finally looked him directly in the eyes. I didn't. She hesitated. You walked in. Adrian exhaled slowly. Of all the restaurants in the country, he had unknowingly stepped into the one place connected to a mystery that had haunted him for years. Suddenly the restaurant door slammed open. The owner walked back in. His eyes immediately moved between Adrian and Lena. What's going on here? Lena stepped back quickly. Just refilling coffee. But the owner's suspicion deepened. He walked toward the table. Adrian calmly took another bite of steak. Problem. The owner forced a smile. No sir. Just making sure everything's alright. But Adrian could see something dark behind the man's eyes. This man knew something. And he was afraid. The next morning Adrian sat inside a quiet hotel room. The flash drive was plugged into his laptop. What he saw made his blood run cold. Emails proving safety violations. Videos showing broken machinery. Reports ignored by management. And one final document. A signed approval from a regional executive allowing operations to continue despite the risks. Adrian leaned back slowly. Someone inside his company had allowed workers to die to save money. And they had buried the truth. 2 weeks later the story exploded across national news. Adrian personally reopened the investigation. 3 executives were fired. 2 faced criminal charges. The warehouse manager was arrested for falsifying safety records. But Adrian didn't stop there. He created a $20 million safety reform program across every facility his company owned. And he established a foundation in Marcus Hill's name. A foundation dedicated to protecting workers who spoke up. On a warm spring afternoon, Adrian returned to the Riverside Grill. This time he arrived openly. No disguise. No secrets. The restaurant owner was gone. The place now belonged to Lena. Adrian stepped inside and smiled. Business looks good. Lena laughed softly. It's getting there. She looked around the restaurant proudly. Dad would have liked this. Adrian nodded quietly. Yes, he would have. Before leaving, Adrian placed something on the counter. A small framed photo. Marcus Hill smiling in his work uniform. Beneath it was a plaque. Courage changes the world. Lena looked at it silently. Then she looked back at Adrian. Thank you. Adrian shook his head gently. No. He smiled. Thank you for the note. Because sometimes the smallest message can change everything.